is another tutorial about Google Smarter, Not Harder. We're going to be talking about the admin interface process that will change your life called import range. So import range is a formula that references a Google Sheet URL, and it brings the information from that another Google Sheet into the master sheet that we're going to be creating. So an example of what the formula would look like in action is import range A2 coaches application C7, and I'll explain each section of that formula. This is a split screen where on the left-hand side we show the master document that's going to be retrieving or importing all of the data from the various separate spreadsheets. So for Sherlock Holmes and Obi-Wan Kenobi and Dana Scully, they all have their separate coaches applications, right? So we've shown you how to provide the URL in the column A, and the import range is going to reference that URL as part of its formula, and it's going to look for the spreadsheet coach application, as you can see there, in quotation marks with separating the exclamation mark, and it's going to find the information in C7. So it's referencing the Google Sheet, the specific sheet within the workbook, and then the specific cell within that sheet. So on the right-hand side, you see the sheet that we're talking about in, let's say, for Sherlock Holmes. It's going to find the first sheet, coach application. It's going to find the cell C7, which is the first name. And then eventually you'll be able to retrieve all data from all of the separate spreadsheets listed in column A to give you a comprehensive view of every single one of your coach or candidates or coach applications. So let's give you a tutorial on how this works. So I've kind of split my screen here, similar to what we had before, and I put in the URL for Art Garfunkel, and I brought his application up here. So now we're going to try that import range that we talked about. So one thing that we want to make sure we do is we want to make sure to do the exact spelling of the spreadsheet that we're going to be referencing for Art Garfunkel. Okay. All right, so let's do the import range. So we're going to type in equal import range, open parentheses, and we're going to reference this URL, which is in A2. Now I'm going to show you a few other fun tips and tricks, but one thing you're going to do is put a cash sign here to lock the column A, and not a cash sign by 2, because we're going to go ahead and allow that to be changed over time as we set this up. So then it's going to be a comma, and then we're going to do open quotes and the exact name of that sheet, coach application, with an exclamation mark, and we're going to go to C, right? 7. So let's do that. C7, close quotation marks, close parentheses, and enter. Oh, and Art comes in, just like that. All right, so one thing that is nice to do, an easy thing to do, because it does take a little time to set this up, but once you set it up, I'll show you how fast it will be to repeat this throughout. So I need to get the cell number for each of the data that I'm looking, like last name. As you can see, that's F7, right? So I took a Post-it sticky, and I was able to get the cells, right, of the data that I'm looking for. So here's a little shortcut that you can do. You want to highlight the one that has the import range in it. So there's that formula that's in that first name column. And I'm going to look for the little blue box, and I'm going to drag it across to last. Now I've got 2 arts. That's not what I want. What I need to do is change it from C7 to F7. So I just double click in there and change the C7 to an F, and now I've got the last name. And I continue this process for address. It's in C10. I just go ahead and click in here, change that to C, and enter. And I can do that all the way across, right? Just go ahead and change cell to C13 and change date of birth to G13, G13, and then change this email to K13, K13, etc. And then I'll just keep on going and going as I go ahead and do the rest of these cells throughout my entire coach application. Now I'm going to show you more shortcuts that you can do once you have the entire row complete. So let's bring this across. Let's assume that I don't have all of this data and I just have the top row complete with all of Sherlock Holmes. As you can see, there is right here and here that import range for every single one of these cells, and they're all different. It's all retrieving a different cell for every single column. Okay, so I also have a different URL for all of these applicants, right? And it's very important that it's in A column. So like I was showing you before, we did a cache sign here to lock the A column, but we did not do a cache sign here for the number 2. And there's a reason for that, because now I can click on Sherlock and I can use this little blue box and drag it down. What it's going to do is it's going to allow for the 2 to change to a 3 and reference the next row down, because that is not locked, only the A is locked. And I can do that for all of my applicants, right? And it goes ahead and it changes that formula to the new row, 5, 6. And I can do that all the way down. And of course, that would be really tedious to do that for every single column. So let me show you another shortcut. If I click on Sherlock and I press down my key on my keyboard, the Shift key, then I can go all the way across to this last column and click on it. Now it's highlighted the entire row for Sherlock. And there's that little blue box. I just click on it and drag it down. And now I've retrieved all the data from every single spreadsheet that has been sent to each of my my coach applicants. And as you can see, it's retrieving this data in real time. So the best part about it is if I need to go into any one applicant's spreadsheet and check on something or work on something, I can just do that from here. I don't need to go into my Google Drive. I can just do it from my master document.